Autopilot jumping. Warp drive active.
Sully. Sully, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
On air already, so mind your words.
Autopilot
Yeah,
disabled.
that's all.
Although you never have to be warned, you're always appropriate.
Warp drive active.
I had an interesting experience in the last 30 minutes in that I got my successfully trapped Titan back into M2. It's weird. Yeah. Got it out and now it's back in the system, but it's in a much safer place now.
Hmm. It's like you. Were you actually ever trapped in there? You were, right?
Warp drive active.
Yeah. At one point I was trapped on the Forza.
Mm-hmm.
Warp drive active. Warp drive active.
Right now they're in the system. Tie-dye is at maximum. There are a lot of mini battles going on over these nodes, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's. This is an iHub timer fight, which is a structure which. Well, I'm a little bit confused, and I shouldn't be, but that means that nodes are involved. I imagine, right? It's not just the TCU.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reinforcement occurs on the iHub. However, when it comes out of reinforcement, it spawns these command beacons. Now, those beacons can spawn anywhere in the constellation and in the system. So,
Warp drive active.
so rather than seeing one big fight over an objective, we're seeing mini fights. Um, right now, there's currently faxes being placed on them, as that's what is best used because they can't be jammed. The Intelligence link, if you're jammed, it turns it off. So they use a fax, put it into triage, and it can't be jammed. But it does mean it's also a big tanky thing.
Right. It takes longer.
Yeah. Recently, NC Dot dropped around 15 dreadnoughts on one of the faxes that was in Tosasing. The Asano had jumped in 15, so I imagine NC Dot are really pressing for this because this would be quite a significant flip.
That's a sign of some commitment there, isn't it? So there's my long way around, but I want to get to. Oops. No, I don't want to see where I'm at all. I want to see that. That's where we're headed.
Warp drive active.
Well, 30 ships destroyed in the last 24 hours. This thing's just starting. If it even kicks off, but at least we know both sides have claimed they care about this, so.
Yeah, both sides are showing as well they really want this. Local at 2800, tie-dye maximum, just because the amount of small getting fighting that's going on. Well, like it's not one centralized grid now; it's spread throughout the system, so the server's actually got a lot more load on it than normal.
Mm.
But yeah, they are deploying factors and trying to entoast this as much as they can. Both sides are so.
Yeah. Well, mm, in this situation where it's there's no invulnerability timer, like on a structure, does the server stability come into play as favoring the defense like it normally would?
Um, it's a tricky one because of the server stability
Warp drive
and the tie
active.
dye. It does favour the defense slightly. However, if the defense don't maintain their presence, then the attackers have just that same advantage. Now, it all depends on who's able to get on these nodes first, because neither side knows which one's coming. Is it just a case of, oh, it spawned there, we have to now react?
So it still counts, but it's not for one side or the other since things are
Yeah.
neutral.
Each node will be counted to who's able to hold it first, because
Right.
naturally with faxes, if they was to deploy a fax on a new node, we would then have to travel to it whilst that fax is in triage, starting up its cycle, and we have to react. But it's a very tricky thing to stream, that's for sure. Just because the fighting is on so many grids, it's difficult to get warp ins on them. So, yeah,
Right.
fast warp scepters are definitely needed.
Yeah. Which is why we're showing you at least my approach. I'm on my way to this region to put a camera in there. There'll be a backup camera to Sully's primary camera. And again, there's not much to see now because the grid is multiple grids. So people are fighting all over that system.
Yeah, and it has only just begun in the last 20 minutes or so. Um, it really is just beginning. So with people really wanting to put a major presence and take this iHub, Pappy wants to reclaim it, Imperium wants to hold on to it. Um, it really is kind of everyone's wanting this now.
Active.
Mm-hmm. In reality, it's really not a big defeat if Imperium loses this iHub. They just lose control over it. But Pappy doesn't really gain anything from winning the iHub, except they get to put down their own. But it doesn't really do anything for them for another 30 days. So they have to put it down and defend it for 30 days. I think it's actually 35 days, isn't it?
Yes, 35 days continuous. So someone's put in chat that there's a little bit of a battle going on next door, so I'm going to move my camera over and take a look.
What system next door?
5 taxi.
Oh, right. I did hear about that. I'll be right here.
I've seen some kills pop up, so I'll pop over and have a look. And
Okay,
see.
yeah. 62 ships destroyed in the last 24 hours. We assume most of those are in the last 5 minutes. I'm looking at the map because, again, I'm just traveling right now. You can see I'm going through Fountain now. I believe I've just entered Fountain. Yep, I'm in the Sphinx constellation. Yeah, it's a dangerous area because Lasecnia Schulpen lives here and they smart bomb gates all the time. So try not to hang around.
Active.
The map looks a little different today. Not sure. I think it's actually designed a little bit different. Statistically, we're looking at ships destroyed in the last 24 hours, so you can see a couple of heavy-duty red dots here. But everybody else has mild 35. Are these jumps? Oh, it's a jump. The 0 ships to. Change that. I think I can do statistics.
Warp drive active.
Here it is. Escape pods destroyed in the last hour. That's usually a sign of PvP. You can see that makes more sense. This is former initiative space, actually current initiative space, but they're not here protecting it that I know of. They are in Catch and Imensia, which would be way over here. Here's Catch, here's Imensia. That's where they're currently active militarily, so they're not hanging out here in Mountain. You can click on this and highlight it. That, highlight it. Funny, Catch and Imensia are kind of shaped the same way. I never realized that. They're kind of crescent shaped. Especially Imensia. Actually, one of my favorite parts of Eve is I think it's over here.
Warp drive active.
Could be wrong. Yeah, it should be here. Here's BTAC R. So if you ever want to know where BTAC R was on the map, it's in Imensia right here. And that area was my home for a while and kind of my favorite area. I was building a lot of stuff in right here, ITAC N. That's where my home was. But I would do the mining here. I would build here, and then headquarters was right here, RTAC Z. So this area here. And what's cool about that area is it has a long jump range, so it can actually reach over to Podion right here. So that's what's nice about this little area. Reaches there. You don't have to go through Catch. Don't have to go through Curse.
Warp drive
But right now I'm headed through Fountain to Delve, get some eyeballs on what the fights are. The fights are right now spread all over the place, including in multiple systems. 5 taxi, the actual ground zero is M2 tech. Should be getting into heavy flak here in a second because I'm coming into Delve. I expect to be damaged, hopefully not destroyed. Let's have a look.
active.
That bubble was meant for me.
Yeah, I've got my stream up to Discord, Mel.
Oh, great.
The M5C one has it's kind of dropped off a little bit. There is a large number of capitals here, so we'll stay and watch and see if anything happens here quickly.
Put that up and switch to. You got better action than me, so let me see if I can put your. That up in just a second.
Warp drive active.
There you go. We'll be looking at your camera, Sully.
Warp drive active.
I have highly expensive implants on this pod, so I'll be hurting if I lose this character here. Not the
Rule number one: never fly what you can't afford to lose.
yeah, not the smartest thing when you don't have a jump clone ready and you're already behind. It's
Active.
oh, look at that.
Yeah, so here we can see the wreckages of the Imperial ships they brought in. Pretty much every single one of these faxes was beginning in Tosis. However, Pandemic Horde and the small fleets over here, I think they're Legacy fleet, just kind of went, yeah, no, and dropped in about 10 to 15 dreadnoughts, but also quite a large,
Wow.
substantial carrier fleet to deal with the sub-capital fleet that was on grid. So pretty much they've just, the sub-capital fleet walked off grid shortly before I arrived.
How many did they eat up there? That looked like quite a few.
Warp drive active.
There's about 10 faxes there that have just been destroyed. And we can see here that we've got the Pandemic Horde Apostle now in Tosising, as well as some smaller Drakes from Pandemic Horde. Pretty much the Drakes will be quicker than the Apostle, but the Apostle is just going to be a backup because he can't be stopped unless he's killed.
There is a gate camp here right outside of 5C. So they're camping outside. I just got through it. I'm going into tie-dye now. And on the inside, in 5 tac C, there's a bunch of it looks like wrecks, so bit of a fight here.
Yeah, there's groups camping and patrolling the gates just to try and stop the lateral movement around the constellation.
Yeah.
Drive active.
I'm going to go ahead and jump out of 5C now. Whoa, what just landed? Because you see a bunch of...
This is me changing the overview.
Okay.
So I'm changing it to so people can see the node here is the only one in this system. But there is 1,600 pilots in here.
Wild. We'll be right back to look at that. Here's what's going on the exit gate. So this is me on the out gate. You can see interceptors taking something out. They captured an Eagle from Brave. These interceptors are Bastion. You guys are quick. Did I make it out?
You're not warping.
Yeah. Oh, bubble up on me, my position, but I was immune to it, so I was able to get out. There should be a problem on the out gate, though. Coming in on the other side. So this is going through 5C to MTAC 2. This is a very busy area. It's where a lot of the combat's actually happening. There is something different about these graphics. Not sure what they are. I think they've retooled the edges or something. This is not normally what the graphics look like. They look really good.
Could be in a preparation for the new jump tunnel effects that are coming in. They are currently on CC as we speak.
They've upgraded the graphics in some way because this is not looking like it used to. It looks really good, actually. I've noticed that on the map, too, the graphics seem to be a little different. I'm in jump tunnel, so I'm going to switch back to Sully here. I'll let you guys know when I'm out.
Yeah, here we're just seeing the capitals now are going to be the only ones on the grid. Sub-capitals, we can see them are beginning to warp off. Still 1,800 in system. I'm just trying to see if I can get another camp online somewhere else. See about bringing a second one in here.
My, I forgot that I had sound on, so I'm going to turn that off on my end so that we can just hear your stuff. Yeah, tie-dye inside of... Yeah, it's down to 10%, so... Well, Bastion's got your outgate there in 5 tac C, so be careful. Bastion is not to be trifled with. They're pretty serious.
Yeah. I believe they're pretty good at catching me a lot of the time. So yeah, it's
Me too. I'm going to switch back to this jump tunnel. I really want to emphasize the difference here. You can see the outlines are harder. So things look better defined than they did before. And you can see the lightning light up. This is in tie-dye, so it's very slow motion. Well, I've actually come to a standstill. Oh, I'm going backwards. No, now I've made it out. All right. I won't be able to move much, so I'll take you back to what's going on in 5C.
not really much happening at this node. Still only the one command node in here, but we are seeing some more ships. They are beginning to warp off to the M2 gate. I'm going to try and see if I can get another set of eyes on the way.
I see what looks like fleet from the Keep Star in M2. Uh-oh, there comes a bubble. I better make haste. And bubbled up twice.
So here we go. So here's going to see some action now. We've just had a Harpy fleet land in. So these Harpies are going to more than likely try and take out these two Drakes that are intossing. Not for any other reason than it will slow down the intosis, because they have no negative effects like the faxes.
Inside of a lot of goon swarm. Well, looks like one guy with multi-box capability, crashing the gate with Ares.
Yeah, those are burst jamming Ares. He's a very good multi-boxer, and he will literally just warp onto an intosis ship from a scan, cycle his jammers, and then leave. In an effort to break their locks, which is why faxes are deployed to intosis, because they are so robust. It's not possible to jam them as well. That they are just a difficult thing, even though they have a significant negative effect. It still is it's the one thing that can't be stopped by jamming the target.
No, the gate grid to 5 tax C is the Keep Star grid, so everything's on the same structure. Right, so that is a heck of a shot there, Sully. Looks like two swarms really going at it.
Yeah, so we've got. Apologies, I just had my other camera die, so I'm going to try and see if I can resupply myself. I got caught on the gate. I had a 1.93 second align time. Wasn't enough.
1.3. Wow.
1.93, and it just wasn't enough. I just got caught.
Oh, I believe I got caught too, or something just happened to me. Something's happening around me. Is that a bomb? Either that was a new effect or some kind of electrical field surrounded my ship. I appear to be okay, though. I'll try to get into a position. Are you still caught, or are you, because you're transmitting a good signal here?
It wasn't this character, it was another one. I was trying to bring in a spare set of eyes.
Sorry, I thought sub 2 you were safe. How can they get you with a 1.3 align time?
1.93, I think, just because of the rounding that goes on. Just easy
Mm.
math.
Yeah, for safety, I do 1.7 or 8. But yeah, good luck getting out. Good shot, by the way.
Yeah, so this is so we can see here now the Planet Horde fleet, the Munin fleet, the Imperial Munin fleet is leaving the grid. They have managed to kill that apostle, so they did interrupt it. They are more than likely now going to be starting to try and kill these other Intosis ships here. But they are being pursued by the fighters from the carriers off to the side.
Do a quick view of the other side of the gate here, not to take you too far away from that action, but as you can see, here's the keep star in the center near the planet. Above and below, you'll see there's a ton of bubbles. That's the gate camp that's been going on all month, and they're fighting for the iHub in this system here, which spills over into the neighboring system, and that's the fight that you're watching now. That's 5-TAC-C. They're fighting over these nodes. The nodes have to be conquered. Takes a period of time, so you need to fight for the grid, control the grid, conquer the node, and you need to do that multiple times in multiple areas along the constellation. So a constellation is about 5 systems, and anywhere in that constellation you can have these nodes spawn. So it's a race to the spawn, control the spawn, convert it to your side, at the same time stopping your opponent from doing the same thing. That's the warfare that's happening today. It's a bit asymmetrical, so it's not like a keep star fight with one grid that you can keep an eye on. These fights are a lot harder to cover. You need multiple cameras. A question here from the audience. Toph says, why do goons only have subs on grid? Isn't that abandoning the objective? I think is what he means.
So in terms of these fights, you don't need capital presence. So we saw there they had an apostle, which is one of the tankiest ships you can Intosis this with, aside from Super Capital and Titans, because they still can Intosis, although it's very, very bad to do so with them.
Well, let's explain that a little bit. They actually had redundancy, so they had 10 apostles. Each of those apostles is able to capture the node. It just takes a lot longer as a capital ship. So they did try the capital route. Go ahead, Sully.
Yeah. So obviously, since they lost their apostles and there was a pandemic horde apostle, they showed up with a large medium force, which was more than enough to kill that apostle. So they didn't need to commit any capitals, minimizing their losses. They are currently being pursued heavily by this fleet, but we can see here the fighters are now just clearing up the last stragglers here. They did manage to warp off, but now the Phantom Horde, I believe, have signed in another apostle who shall begin going into triage and beginning to Intosis as a backup. The Drake pilots actually managed to survive, which is very, very good.
Well, they were always known for their tank. But they're not maneuverable. I mean, these are, what you're seeing is really the crux of the war these days is node control for iHubs. Those infrastructure hubs then lead to benefits for controlling the system. And once you control the system, then you can bring in your essentially large war machines and take down the structures.
Yeah, so since the M2 fight, Pappy have since killed another Keepstar. However, it was done under the effect of a Sana Jammer, so there was really quite a difficult part for them to play in that.
If you think about it, those Keepstar fights are this right here. Fights for that iHub. Fights for the nodes. They give you the iHub. They give you the keys to killing the Keepstar. So this is what it looks like.
As we see, there's the carriers which currently control this large fighter swarm. They are recalling them now. They're likely to rearm, reload, make sure they're all topped up and healthy. So we are. I will be trying to get his eyes back, but currently this is where most of the action is. There's not a huge amount going on in M2 itself. There is obviously action, but right now it's bouncing. The fleets are warping around, just trying to maintain that Intos's control. So it's very difficult to get good coverage.
What do we have in local here? It's yeah, there's 3100 in MTAC 2. So is there a certain formation that takes place with these, Sully? Like, do people form in the main system where the iHub is and then flare out all over the constellation? Or are they just dropping in and out from their headquarters?
So it's kind of a bit of both. The M2 nodes were probably considered to be the most difficult to take. So they wanted to ensure they had a strong presence there. So that's why we are seeing 3,100 pilots in M2, because Imperium have been camping there. They've been maintaining around 1,000 pilots daily. So knowing that they've got a lot of capital force in that system just kind of meant that a lot of it was focused in there, and it seems as though it was quite fortunate there was a large number of nodes that appeared in that system. But now, as we get further on, with Aegis off, it is going to be under tie-dye for the most part, especially when there's contests going on, as well as using, obviously, the apostles to Etosis takes an extremely long time. But we will begin to see these the control beginning to shift.
Using a capital ship for node control, does it take 6 times longer? Or have they made an adjustment?
I believe it is 5 times longer.
Mm-hmm. So just naturally it takes 5 times longer, and then
So
you have tie-dye on top of that.
Yeah, so assuming the fax pilots are using a T2 Intosis link, as you can see up on the stream here, that has a activation time of 2 minutes. If it is jammed after those 2 minutes, it must end its cycle and start again. It takes 1 cycle to start up, and then from the second cycle round is when it actually starts to have an effect on this off. So if it is lost at any point during the cycle, it has to end. They have to restart it for a whole another 2 minutes. So if they are jammed, for example, 5 seconds into their cycle, they have to wait 2 minutes, then start 2 minutes again, then they have an impact.
I see. So it's just to start their cycle.
Yes. But the fax, though, it is affected this entire duration, so it's 5 times that. So as it is 2 minutes for a regular subcapital, it will be 10 minutes for a fax. and that's why the Penitent Horde group are using the facts as a backup, because that way then they can always ensure they are having an effect here. You see the attackers making progress 32-24. It doesn't matter who is intoxicating, it goes by the fastest person. Only one has an effect at a time, but obviously with multiple they have redundancies. I'll be able to get you guys a swap over into M2 in a moment. I've just managed to reship the pilot that died earlier. Luckily, I got his pod out, so it's nice, easy. I've managed to secure him a new stiletto. This one with a faster warp speed, hopefully. So Wolfgord said in the chat, he would love to be able to just like hold up a white flag and head into system and not have to worry. It would make my life a lot easier. As unfortunately, these ones are just literally everyone tries to shoot everyone. Neutral stilettos, things like that. They don't know if I'm trying to aid either side, so both sides are willing to shoot me. It is difficult at times, but it's why I've managed to get reasonably well at evading these sort of things. I'm just a couple of jumps away from M2, so when I'm in system, I will give you guys a view of the battles that's going on there. Yeah, obviously, yeah, Inceptors are just presumed there to disrupt the Intosis, so they are pretty much first target. Yeah, so I'm just warping into a node, guys, where I know there is a bit of content, so I will let you know as soon as I am there. Yeah, sure. So Earth was asked for a recap. So we saw the M2 iHub get reinforced previously. There was a fairly decent sized battle, however, there was nothing really um, relevant to stream. It was difficult to stream just to the fighting. Today, the iHub has come out of reinforcement. So, with that, there are now command nodes that have spawned throughout M2 and the constellation. Each of these nodes needs to be intosed by the attackers and by the defenders. Um, so we are seeing battles forming up at these specific nodes. Currently, you're watching M2. This is a pandemic horde fleet and legacy just to protect this node that is currently here. When this node is completed, the likelihood is they will move into M2 or in search of another node that's not being secured. So I just traveled to a node where I believe there was content, and there is just 5 or 6 small subcapitals for Imperium plus 1 fax. So I'm going to reposition to another node. We see there we have one of the subcap fleets has just left this grid, and we can see, zoom in, that the attackers are making progress. So this node itself still has 24 minutes remaining. No, I do not believe in toaster times are affected by tie-dye. Um, it's one of those magical moments. I'm not entirely sure. That was it, yeah. And toaster sync is affected, however, the structure time is not. That was the way around it was. So we can see the system here. There is some tie-dye, however, there's still only this one main node here. Hopefully, I can get you some eyes in M2 on a battle that's going on. So the fighting in M2 currently, I do not believe it is over the Hell Camp. There are still a large number of capitals on there from Imperium. Just need to move my camera around because I landed next to a large number of the hostile interceptors. Yeah, this isn't the M2 Furious, but I am trying to get a camera in a position in M2. It is difficult to do this sort of streaming because I don't have bookmarks on these nodes because they do chop and change. So I will be looking to, as the night progresses, I'll have more and more available. So blue in this instance is the Pappy and Legacy forces. Red is Imperium. This was due to I asked the initiative, some initiative pilots in local, whether they'd rather be red or blue, and it was literally just they said, "Okay, we want to be red." So we're not actually blue to any of one. These are just so we can differentiate the fleet colours. Both groups will still quite happily kill me. So Hedge asked the question, why is it we can see the 5 taxi on the overview, however these iHubs M2? So the nodes for iHubs and TCUs, they spawn across the constellation. So every system in the constellation has a chance to get nodes. That's why you are seeing it from multiple different ones. So we're just going to swap screens here, guys, and you're going to see we are now in M2 on another node that has some fighting going on. So once I've reached my warp destination, hopefully I can keep an eye on the fighting. So here we go. You can see we have two subcapital fleets here. We have the Imperium in an Eagle fleet, as well as multiple fleets landing from test alliance. We also have a test alliance Minakawa. Sorry, an NC dot Minakawa here. So I have also just seen some Imperium fleets are trying to leave. So this is the unfortunate side of the iHub wars, in that a lot of the times the fleets will come, quickly destroy the Intosis's, and then they will leave, which means that the Intosis cycles restart, and it's yeah. It gets difficult to maintain all of this attacks. And here we also see there is a fire standing fleet on the way here. So you see XIX, Razor, Valkyrie, groups like that also coming down in. So pretty much they knew that there was a fleet here, so a large number of people moved in on them. Included in there as well, I believe, is my main in the Sabre. So, for recap on the significance of M2, the Keep Star in M2 was originally deemed as a non-essential Keep Star. However, it did spark the largest bloodbath of Titans. The iHub for this system allows the controllers access to Cynojammers once they have had it for 35 days. Had control of it rather for 35 days. So this fighting is for Pappy to regain control, not only so they can help restore and rescue the remaining Titans they have trapped there, which estimations are around 130 to 180 Titans, I believe, but also to begin the process of getting the Cynojammering in system and being able to attack and destroy the Keep Star as originally was planned. Currently on the overview, you're seeing the Pappy forces as blue and Imperium as red. And even using the Eve note system for there, and we were get that one. Yeah, Dragon Tree. That's that was what Matt had up for stream. So it's just there, just kind of keep it as a nice little background. All it does as well is it hides some things in local, but it still gives people the ability to see what's there. Here you can see there's still just the Imperium fleet that was here, and they're now beginning to be chased off by the Pappy fleets. And we see the Atosis is underway here. Currently, it is stating that Condi is making progress. That's because these pilots are still in their spool up time. So after a little while, that will change to attackers making progress. You can see here that the overall effect is still in Goonswarm's favour, but it's still very much a long way to go. We get a couple of cool visuals in whilst we're waiting, because unfortunately this is a tie-dye heavy fight, so we will get to points where it was just an inactivity because both fleets with maximum tie-dye have to move around and things like that. So, for reference on people's timers, the node that we saw earlier in 5C, that has only just reached 10 minutes remaining on its cycle. So these M2 nodes will be very lengthy just because of the heavy tie-dye this system's going to maintain it. Yeah, so Carlisle just said there as well about the time it's going to take for this synthesis. Unfortunately, that is a major impact. You can see that we still haven't even had the first cycle of these endosis pilots. The tie-dye does make it so everything lasts so much longer. The endosis cycle in real time, I believe, is about 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Well, let's look to see if I can get a local scan for M2 and see what we've got in local. Yeah, so this is a 5.8 ADM system. So for those that don't know, the activity defense multiplier makes it much more difficult to have it itosis. The only thing that is worse than a 6.0 ADM system is a capital. The capital system itself does make it so it is quite difficult. But the only reason the capital system does make it that difficult is you don't have to have an ADM modifier. So if this was a capital system, it doesn't matter if the military index was at 1 or at 5, like currently is, it would still be 6.0. And each alliance is only able to declare one capital system. So from the local scan that's in chat, you can see that the Gunstorm Federation have 926 pilots in system, followed very closely by Test Alliance have, well, not very closely, but followed by rather Test Alliance have 444 with Bennett Horde 316 and NC 308, and the Initiative at 253. So there are still a huge number of pilots here. I would have to say, on the balance, it was more in favour for the Imperium with the number of pilots in system. But with that, the Imperium also has a large number of capitals still on that Keepstar to protect any possible escape attempts. There you go. For those that are having difficulty seeing the system, I've also put it in the notepad as suggested by Dane Cook. Or Dan Cook, so even apologies for butchering your name as well. So there are some people that are multi-boxing in system. However, the person that runs the burst gem accounts that you can see at the top of the overview, so at the top of local, he does not actually run in broadcasting. He has previously streamed how he does it, and it is a very interesting setup. But he has just gotten so good at doing it through practice. It's no real issue. You see, overall here, the fight is beginning to wind down for this node. There is still maximum tie-dye, and there is still a couple of doses. For the 5-tack C node, however, that has only got 3 minutes and 43 seconds left. 1,300 pilots in system. There is still the large carrier force protecting the node. I'm unsure if there'll be breakout attempt. Currently my Titan is back in system for various different reasons. So I hope there is not a breakout attempt, so that when there is one next, I can make sure I get out safely. But I don't foresee a breakout attempt, given that just the number of number of pilots in the system, the level of tie-dye, and the Imperium has likely got a large number of capitals online ready for if this fight escalates anymore. So, question from Bangkok is: it says Condi make progress, and that is literally just because the spool up time is still ongoing for these ships. They have a 2-minute spool up whilst in tie dye. That is 15 to 20 minutes. I can see that Bong Squareman tried to call me primary in the TIS chat. However, I'm not on a character called Sully, so I'm quite fortunate there. But I am on my main here, flying a Saber. But I will have to see how things progress if he survives the night. We have just seen a name scroll up through local, Elise. So Elise Randolph from PL, who's a regular on TIS, streaming as well. He's currently in system with Pandemic Legion, so he's involved in this fight as well. So we are now in the last, for the 5C node, we're in the last 4 minutes for that node. So we will hopefully begin to see these pilots maybe transition into M2 or even into another system. But with that camera, I will look to reposition him so we can get an action shot rather than the remnants, the stragglers being picked off slowly and surely by the 4 or 5 Pappy fleets that descended upon them. So there we can see there has just been a small jump up in the contestant. That is because the iHub node in 5C was successfully won by Pappy, and as such, that means that little jump just made it so it's that much closer to 50%. Yeah, so the capitals in 5 stack C have now left that node grid. There are no more nodes in the system. So if anyone knows of any fighting, if they're involved, please do give it a poke towards my way, and I will look to try and see if I can get a camera on there so we can all enjoy the visuals. Because there's a lot of moving around on these iHub fights, just because of the nature of the node spawning. So with the standard thing, the last ship that is left alive is the Monitor. However, the Imperium pilots, or rather the Imperium FCs, have been leaving their ship. They have been ejected from their monitors to try and get back to safety, just because of how long these ships survive. So you see there, his monitor is under attack. Even without a pilot, these ships have formidable defenses. So for Gonzo, with the 5 taxi node, Pappy was the ones that was able to Intosis the node, so that for made it as their victories, which bumped the red line round. As we see more and more of these nodes get taken over by Pappy and one, the red bar will increase and the blue bar decrease. If obviously Imperium do defend the node and they are able to successfully Intosis it, then it will revert the other way. But there we can see Path's monitor is finally coming. His capsule is still alive, however, you can see that just there, taking some damage. And there we go. His capsule has since been completely destroyed, whilst his monitor blows up in front of him. Wormis, unfortunately, I don't know the total number of nodes needed to secure the objective. So there has been an interesting development happened on this node. Came out far enough. You can see there the initiative has just brought in a fleet of eagles at range. You see they're now primarying the NC Drake from Corruptified. I'm going to be looking to remove him as quickly as possible to make it so that this node takes as long as possible. So there was a comment there from Carlisle Gaming about no tidal one jump over. The nodes for M2, 1DQ, and T5Z, the two stagings, and also the Keep Star Camp system, they have been all moved onto reinforced servers. That is because heavy fighting is expected to be taking part, or heavy server load is expected to be taking part over these three systems. As such, CCP have decided to put them on reinforced nodes to ensure that there's no major impact to the player's gameplay experience. Which is why you'll see heavy tide on this system, but the moment we take a Stargate, there's no tie-dye. So here you can see the initiative are beginning to take out this Milikawa that is also in Tosizing node. Here you can see the initiative Munin fleet beginning to move out. As they're reaching a certain point, obviously you can see them there just beginning to engage warp. But the Minakawa, the NC Minakawa flown by Helios Jinmei, did not, in fact, get popped. So we can see the initiative fleet has since left grid. We can now see there are three fleets formed up here: Pandemic Horde and Legacy, Pandemic Legion, as well as the Test Alliance fleet, are now positioned around this one node. The Minakawa is the one of, if not the tankiest force auxiliary that is present on the grid, or present in the game. We can in fact see that the tie-dye is now no longer at maximum. It has since gone down to 31%. Even that 20% difference, 21% difference, that is a major difference in the time of these cycles. And it looks to be going down even further. So as the fighting is beginning to subside in some places in the system, tie-dye is obviously no longer at maximum, so cycles will be better. As when Mrs. explained, we saw that we saw the Immune fleets did have jackdaws. They are very useful in destroying bombs and other things that could cause damage. And Blu-ray, yes, the loggerhead is technically the tankiest fax. However, it is also a 35 billion fax that isn't really suitable for this job. So the reason it is still stating that Condi is making progress is solely because the timer for the Minakawa's module cycle hasn't gone through. It takes 10 minutes of real time, assuming he has a Tech 2. If he has any worse of a one, it will take even more. Yeah, if he has a T1 in Tosis, then it'll be 25 minutes for this pilot. But there are multiple nodes that spawn. Right now, there are 5 nodes present throughout M2. Yeah, I did notice that. Thanks, someone, a V8 pilot from Test Alliance, has already looked to try and claim an advantage in securing loot. We did see a salvaging and looting roll call earlier from the Pendant Horde site for the Imperium factors that were killed on the 5-tac C node. They were there quickly trying to scoop up those wrecks because these factors are quite a decent fit. So, Screaming PC, a lot of salvage is needed to replace 400 bills. Yeah, all of these uh, all of these drones unfortunately have been left by pilots. I'm wondering if CCB would ever bring out a drone recovery module, similar to the way that there is now an mobile traction unit for corpses. I wonder if there'll be something similar for drones. Billy asks about why there was no breakout. Chances are a breakout in this situation would be one of the worst things Pappy can do, just because everyone is prepared. Imperium have a large number of their pilots online. Both sides have been pinging like crazy for this battle, so it's a quite big thing. One thing I don't know, we have just seen the color swing back towards the Imperium side, so the blue bar for Imperium's defense has since gotten larger. That means they was able to secure a node. Yeah, so right now the fighting has subsided from what I can find. So I'm going to be trying to see if I can get eyes on any more engagements. If anyone happens to know of any that they're fighting in these systems, please do put it in the chat, and I'll see if I can get a camera over there so we can enjoy the views.
Thanks for doing the filming, Sully. I'll be back in just a few more minutes.
Okay, so we got a fight possibly at VZ83 node, so I'll see if I can get a camera over there to have a look. So, question asked by Von Hindenberger there is how long has this been going on? And is it clear on which side initiated? So this fight itself has been going on now for around about 2 hours, with the early fleet form-up times. Both sides knew this was obviously coming out, with it being a reinforcement. It takes a couple of days, so both sides had plenty of time to prepare. In terms of who initiated first, both of them were pretty much simultaneously getting into system and beginning to go on the attack. So here we're just in another system, another node in M2 on a different camera. So I'm just going to quickly set up the text so we can all see it nice and clearly. Here we can see there's an Imperium Milikawa here. He's since taken damage from the NC Dreadnoughts here. These Dreadnoughts were moved into this position to be able to deal with this Milikawa rather quick and effectively. We also have the monitor there from Malak Fonor. He's pretty much locked down, so he will be under heavy attack now as well. Let's have a look at this Milikawa. His shields are just beginning to break. As we can see some beginning armor damage coming in. So, quick recap for whilst we're watching this Milikawa take some heavy damage from these dreadnoughts. The system of M2 TAC iHub was put into reinforce by Pappy a couple of days ago now, and we're now following around the nodes for the iHub. There is multiple nodes in each system. With a random number, I believe, spawns at once. Each node, I believe someone mentioned in chat, is 7 or 8% of the value. So it is up to Pappy to try and capture these nodes and Imperium to prevent them from doing so. So we can see now the Minakawa is beginning its explosion, and just at the bottom of the screen we can see the monitor is taking himself a large number of damage from these surrounding fleets. So currently, I believe the. Let me have a look and see. This war, I believe that this war is fairly even. Um, actually, from the report I've just got here, it's 78 billion lost by the Pappy forces and 142 billion lost by the Imperium. But for the actual progress on the iHubs, Goons are, I believe they've gained one more node than the Pappy forces. So right now it is Imperium that is winning this battle of the iHub reinforcement. For this kind of fight, the ISK is not relevant for the objective. The objective here is the iHub. So the ISK is just how much each side is willing to commit and spend into the iHub itself. So we can see Malak Fono is still alive in his monitor. Just a testament to how much these ships can tank. So Bromhead put a very good question in the chat of if Imperium lose the iHub, what does it mean? So if Imperium loses iHub, they lose the progress of which they've held for this structure. So currently they're at strategic index level 2. At level 3 index, which is holding the iHub for 35 days, it allows them to anchor and online a Sinojammer and a jump bridge. The Pappy are currently using the Sinojammers to allow them to attack the Keep Stars. Since the M2 fight that has since gone on, the one deck S Keep Star itself also had a Sonojammer put in place, and the Keep Star was destroyed without defense because with a Sonojammer active, it is very difficult for defenders to get in system. So here we can see the interceptor fleets that are coming in. And these Ares are designed with specific ECM bursts. So their main goal is to ECM burst the Vulture here, from by Avery Hackelson, trying to stop him from intosising. Because you cannot stop an intosis module whilst it is firing, the most efficient way is to remove their lock, which also stops the module, meaning they have to finish their current cycle and then begin another warm-up cycle to begin affecting this node. And we can see the bar has since moved into the Happy forces having a majority at just over 50% now. There you can see the contested bar with Greenstorm Federation as well as attackers. So that is favouring now onto the attacker side. So Enigma, most of the pilots. So we asked if ECCM could be used to prevent burst jamming. It is an effective strategy to have these ships with ECCM. However, given that most of the fleet doctrines in this grid are shield, you're compromising the tank of the ship for the ECM, as well as ECM is a percentage chance rather than a fixed. So even though you could have a higher ECM of even say Titans at 200, they are still susceptible to being jammed. So here we're swapping out to camera number 3. It was just in an Imperium fleet, sorry, an Initiative fleet have landed on this node, and they're going to hopefully begin taking out these Drakes thrown by XIX and 2 from Pandemic Horde. They will be trying to destroy them and the Prophecy from Pandemic Horde as well, and then beginning to focus on that Munakawa from Helios. So you can see now the tie-dye has since taken a huge reduction. It's now only at 70%. And you can see there the attackers are finally making progress, but this Munakawa is now being primaried. If he can survive long enough, then this node will begin cycling towards the attackers. And you can see the bar currently for the sovereignty of M2 is favouring towards the attackers now. Whoever is, if Happy forces are able to get this red bar maximum for their attacking side, it will destroy the iHub, and then the system will be without an iHub. It is then Happy's job to entosis another iHub into position, which will then give them the security. Here you've just seen there were 2 fleets that have just landed, and the initiative fleet is now looking to withdraw because obviously they are severely outnumbered. Oh, hey, Resist. Thank you very much for the raid with 192. Welcome along to hopefully see some interesting battles going down in the world of M2 Tech. So we can see there the Minokawa, flown by Helios Shinmen, has survived yet another attack onto him. Yeah, the Minokawa pilot, his Intosis module is still running. With time dilation at 22%, it's still a significant time, but that even that attacking note there is still quite significant. And I do believe in local we have a Seeberchet Aperture is now present in local as well, so he's going to hopefully be getting some lovely pictures of the fight as it goes on. So the current battle progress is Pappy forces are ahead in the contestant, but they still need a lot more work to fully capture. So currently, I haven't got eyes on any fighting. BF-74. I'll see if I can have a look and get eyes on BF-74. I need more camera eyes, I think. 5 in one system. Cover every node. So this is going to be a slightly different camera view. My main was actually on his way to that fight, so we'll see if I'm able to deliver my saber whilst we're trying to get rid of the Imperium forces on here. Hey Nick, welcome over to the stream. So, quick recap for Nick, and it's been a little while since we've done one. The M2 TAC system, iHub was attacked a couple of days ago. This is the ongoing battles over the command nodes for that system. So each of these command nodes is worth 7 or 8% of the total number to secure the victory for the system. Imperium wants all of them to ensure that they are able to maintain this iHub. Pappy wants to obviously destroy it to replace it with their own. Yes, we're going to swap over to number 3 as we've just seen a bombing run attempted by Imperium pilots heading towards Pandemic Horde. I'm unsure of how many bombs that they've got off, but I don't know if there'll be enough that is effectively able to damage these ships. You see there the bombs just beginning to explode, taking out some drones, but no real damage on the ships. We're going to go back to number 2. Station cameras. He's watching this fight now on the node. Thank you very much for those that have pointed out where the fights are. Here you can see the Imperium Munin fleet is now beginning to total up, and we can see there David Cedarbridge being the anchor for that fleet. Even though he has significant high resist, there are still pilots wanting to do some damage to him. And there we can see as the Pandemic Legion Saber pilots begin to get closer, they look to withdraw so they're not trapped here with these 3 or 4 fleets now bearing down on them. So, Trapdoor Melon says headshot. The Monitor was a ship designed by CCP to combat the issue that was happening with a lot of fleets. In that, once a prominent FC is known, they will specifically target him, and thus that really does put a dampener on fleet engagements because FCs are almost unable to be in the fight. whereas the monitor now has insane resists for shield and armor, as well as being mobile enough for all types of fleets that it allows them to be used as an FC ship. They don't have really any offensive modules, just be a target painter for getting on kill mails. Here you can see there's still a couple of a dozen or so pilots now trapped in bubbles with David Cedarridge in the monitor, very unlikely to get away. Unfortunately, so the monitors are still quite an expensive ship. They're not cheap, but they are appointed because it is NFC, and being able to ensure that he stays on this grid means that there is no chance that he can reform his fleet and attack. So as we can see that with this fight, the command node, if I can find it, is up over here, is currently making a node on the attacker. So for those that have just joined us, the command node is what controls the iHub for the system now. It has come out of Reinforce. If the attackers are able to intosis these command nodes um, enough to sway the percentage bar, the iHub will be destroyed, and the attackers are then able to re-anchor their own iHub because the system is effectively solveless without an infrastructure hub. The Imperium forces also can intosis it to turn this way back into their favor. Using the intosis module has its limitations. Capital ships, for example, have longer ones. Subcapital ships are susceptible to being jammed as well as destroyed. Okay, so it looks like the battle has finally wound down here. So, does anyone have any more information on where the next possible battle will be? Yeah, shoot big. So I didn't want to put it that way, just in case it gets misconstrued. But yes. So, question by Vlad and people there about how difficult it is to tell. There is a cycle bar around the Uniform icon for the iHub. The red is the Pappy attacking. The blue is the Imperium defense. The If the red bar completely fills, then Pappy is victorious. Same if the blue bar completely fills, then Imperium is victorious. It is also possible to see it in the Sovereignty tab under the Solar System info.
Sally, thanks again for doing a great job. Giving us some camera angles on a very hard type of battle to film. Thanks for your help out there. We're just passing 2 hours of coverage. There's a little bit of news that's off grid. Hoover Incorporated merges into Habitual Enthusiasm. Those are two Pandemic Legion corporations. So Hoover merging into Habit.
It's quite a good thing to see when you have two corporations in the same alliance. Obviously, inactivity does affect everyone, especially this with the current global crisis that is ongoing. So a lot of players aren't able to commit time. So at least these pilots are still able to maintain in their alliance, so they don't have a lot of upheaval. So that's quite a useful thing. I'm quite pleased as well in that they are still willing to fight for it.
Yeah, the acting CEO, I believe, of Habitual Enthusiasm is Elise Randolph, CIS's very own.
Yeah, he's currently talking in local. It seems like he may have looted Plex from someone's Munin randomly.
Really? Somebody carried Plex? That's like...
Apparently, there's a movement that he's put out there, find the Plex, kill Mel.
that's literally like going to a street fight with a bunch of cash in your pocket.
Let's see if I can analyze the battle report to give people.
Oh shoot, did I say enthusiasm? Habitual euthanasia. A little bit different. My bad. And that's true. I probably said enthusiasm because I think of Elise. That's habitual euthanasia. Although I kind of like habitual enthusiasm.
So in chat, we now have a battle report. It's currently showing that 90 billion has been lost by the Pappy forces, with 165 billion being lost by the Imperium forces. But the ISK in this battle isn't the major concern, it is that iHub timer, and we can see that it is slowly, with every passing node, it is progressing more and more towards the Pappy assault force.
Right. So if Pappy wins this iHub, they have the option, they will exercise it, to put down their own iHub. So at that point, they become the team on defense in this system.
And it's not specifically limited to Pappy. It has been known that an iHub has been killed, and the people who owned the iHub was able to anchor one and entosis it successfully.
Anchor and entosis, is that what makes it stick?
Yeah. So when you put down an iHub, you then have to entosis it yourself, and you get a 15-minute timer, I believe it is.
That's
And
just
it
like
has
the
been
old.
previous. I don't know if it happened in this war, but in previous examples, an iHub was destroyed, but the attackers were able to successfully. Also, the defenders put down another iHub and was able to hold grid for the entosis. So they basically kept their own system, and it had to be reinforced again.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I remember that from Dominion Sov. There was, you'd put down your own territorial claim breaker, whatever that unit was called, and you'd shoot it, and it would stick. So you could literally do some weird maneuver to seal off the system.
Infantry blockade units.
That's it, the blockade unit. Yeah, and that was kind of silly. So I thought they eliminated that, but I think what that rule is meant for now with this entosis system that was developed by Aegis Sov, or during that expansion, is to basically say you've got to control the grid. So if they put down an iHub, it's up for grabs. So they have to put it down and protect it. So you have to own the grid after the fighting is done.
Yeah, it's not possible anymore just to control the system yourself by pure numbers. It has to maintain grid control with, as well, like I say, we've seen it multiple times today, using force auxiliaries as their backup, but also having a subcapital there just to make sure the progress is swinging towards the attacker's favor.
So Vieta makes a good point here. Goon, in a couple ways, have in a couple days away from being able to drop a jammer in M2. That would be a huge advantage since there's still 150 Titans trapped under M2 Keepstar. Big win for Pappy if you can destroy the iHub today.
Yeah, that is true. I believe the Imperiumist did some work and was able to guesstimate out with about 180 Titans, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that actually puts into perspective why the breakout was a couple days ago, 4 or 5 days ago, right? Like they didn't wait until this. Well, I guess they could have attacked this at any time since they were the offense, but in case they attacked this iHub and failed, that means that the iHub would have stayed intact and moved past the 35 days, allowing a Sino jammer. So you can see why Pappy wanted to avoid that situation.
Wolfton put in chat that he had noted that local has since dropped down to 2,000 in M2. It is now beginning to rise back up slowly. I'm unsure where those fleets went, so we'll have to see if I can find them. Whilst we see there another huge increase in the nodes, so Pappy forces are just a couple more of nodes away from being able to secure this victory and destroy this iHub.
So earlier in this fight, there was, I'm just getting reports of it now since I was away, that there was a Titan foul up, or it was a jump that shouldn't have been a jump for a Titan. So that kind of a fail jump causes an immediate situation. So that was a Titan from NC Dot that accidentally jumped instead of bridge.
Into which system?
I don't have the system. I think I have the corporation, but not the system. Let me check. Oh, that was in M2 on a node. That
Ooh.
is pretty scary.
Yeah, because I know I've got my Titan in the system. I brought in when I brought in another Titan bridge in our fleets for strategic reasons, but I didn't realize there was another tactical blunder there.
Yep.
I'm hoping he was able to get out successfully, but that was quite that'd be quite an interesting moment for that pilot.
Oh yeah, high stakes. Everybody's in that system. You don't want to get caught in that situation. But he apparently got out, and got out just before a Saber was landing to grab him. So good move. I mean, it's a failed jump. It does happen, and good on NC for getting out, not getting caught. That pilot will probably be a little more careful next time.
Yeah, there have been many pilots that have perished from that mistake. I have been fortunate enough that I have only ever done it once to an enemy fleet, and they were so scared they ran away. This is back when Tracking Titans were a thing, and it was about 30 battle cruisers, so it wasn't anything major.
Yeah, it's usually the panic that would kill a pilot in those
Uh,
situations. They lose their
I'm pretty
head.
sure in that situation, I was more scared than any of those pilots.
Looking good for the Pappy forces, but anything can happen. There are 3 nodes left, and Pappy is spooling on 10 at the moment.
Yeah, like Dan Gooder said as well, NC, I believe, lost 2 jump freighters yesterday. I'm unsure if they were caught on a beacon or if they were caught warping or anything like that, but it definitely those kind of losses hurt because they are the backbone of the logistics for these alliances. Without jump freighters, moving in war assets would be a huge pain.
A fairly close call for that Titan.
Right. I've heard some info that there's a possible fight going on in the system next door, so I'm going to go try and get my eyes on it.
Unverified, but Wombat here says that Init just left and jump cloned back to Curse. If true, that's probably a sign that things are winding down. With 10 nodes spooling, they need to capture 3. They have room for error of 4. Sorry, 7. That's a lot of room for error. I'll look into this. Lungen says that Goons lost a Titan today in 1DQ.
They did, yes. So I've heard a couple of different things about that. I had a pilot in the system at the time. He wasn't sure on the kill itself, whether it was caught on the gate. because the dreadnought was doomsday first. What I believe happened is he may have been caught at the beacon, given his location to the asteroid belt, um, or caught at a sino out of position. It's really a difficult one because he was so far out of position. Normally, if they was caught at the beacon, it would be next to the T5Z Stargate on Zkill, but this one was next to an asteroid belt at 23.7 AU away.
Well, both can be true. You can get caught and self-destruct.
People were saying that it looks like he was warped off. Now that would make sense.
Yeah. Looks like an avatar by Mike 8light from House Aratus, Goonswarm Federation. Yeah, looks like it was killed by Northern Coalition with dreads. Yep, the Titan got warped off via fleet invite. That's happened at least twice before in this war. Happened to Fraternity, I believe. It might happen to...
It's a very easy thing to do because most capital pilots will flag exempt from free warp. However, if they're unsure who they're being invited by and accidentally click accept, then that flag exempt can't ever be activated. And so they are pretty much at the mercy of it. I have a nice way that I've got here, secret to me, that when Pandemic Horde used to roam around in Toilet and Its Mother, where before War was on, I used to be able to get in their fleet and I'd have a little chat with them and things like that. Because Pandemic Horde are very good at inviting every pilot they can. They'll just go down a long list and be like, okay, he's accepted. Let's see if we can walk him off.
I love those little stick figure men floating in space. Well, there must be a Munion fleet below there.
That is indeed. It's a
look how fast they're moving.
Fleet.
Look how fast those Munions are. It's incredible. Following a monitor fleet commanding ship. When you watch EVE Online and it's not tie-dye and you look at those subcap fleets, they literally look like I don't know, electromagnetic movements of materials there.
Almost like those swarms of birds you see in the sky where they just buck and wave under the leaders, kind of thing. Because you see the monitor change direction, and then all of a sudden, all of them just look to. Obviously, you have the second monitor there, so this may not be the FC, but there may be this one is. But you can see they're just trying to keep up.
We always want to keep these things moving for various reasons. They're either positioning or just to take evasive maneuvers when they're not trying to get into a tactical position because you don't want to get bombed or
the main one would be trying to avoid the bombs. We have seen Imperium try. Unfortunately, they have been unsuccessful in their bombing attempts, but they have been trying to do so. So change up our camera slightly. For those that have been asking throughout the day whether or not the Keepstar is still currently being camped. So here we have the M2 Keepstar itself. You can see there is the bubble camp above and below. And we still have a large majority of the Imperium forces now are sat around here. So we have a Cerberus fleet in the center, as well as a Munion fleet off to the side, sat on Titans. In fact, we have a third fleet up here as well, which is another Munion fleet.
Right. So there was some talk about a possible breakout attempt, which was unlikely, as you clearly explained. Here is
One interesting thing is one of the nodes actually spawned on the Keepstar grid.
oh,
You can see them off in the distance there at 14,000 kilometers. That node is on this Keepstar grid.
that's interesting. There's a close up of the Keepstar. We're going to take you to a shot that's further back, and you can see the bubble configuration. Those are heavily bubbled areas. Last time it took hundreds of dreads to land and clear those out as quickly as possible with the help of some battleships in order to get Titans out that were trapped in those general areas.
As we can now see, the iHub has been destroyed. There is no iHub present in this system.
So, is it a race to put one up?
Now there will be an iHub likely going up. We see a huge swarm of good fights going off in local. 2,144 pilots in system, and local is just scrolling massively with good fights. So now we will have to keep an eye and see where the next iHub will appear.
Elise Randolph is a legendary Pokemon. Earlier in today's show, which was actually quite a fun show, it was said if Elise was a Pokemon, he would be a legendary Pokemon.
If I was a Pokemon, I'd be a Snorlax.
You totally would. All right, as long as we are here and doesn't seem to be anything happening at the very moment, there is an iHub that's going to be put up right now, we assume, by Pappy, who's controlled most of the grid, most of the field, most of the constellation. There's multiple grids on the constellation. As long as we're here, a couple of reminders. One is, if you have a Prime sub and you want to give it to TIS, now is a good time to hit that subscribe button. We would appreciate it. If not us, then choose another Eve streamer, your favorite one. Ron is streaming Eve again, which is great. Make sure you give him some love. But you can subscribe. Since we made partnership, it's a little bit better for us to get subscriptions. All right, thank you. Just a reminder, people forget, so we have to say it every once in a while. It's a good time to resub, because you have to do it every month. So yeah, you can't just say this one all the time. Yeah, the in-game mailing list is TIS News, if you know how to subscribe to that. If you don't, I'm going to take a second now. We'll go to any action that happens, but real quick, I'm going to show you here that if you go to your mail list, which is here, down here in this section is a button called Add Mailing List. Click on that and type in TIS News. And that will get you like this, TIS. Actually, I'm going to make this a bit easier to see. Very good. Let me get you back to the action and I'll get prepared for this. If there's lag.
So I believe something interesting has happened. There is an iHub that is anchored, but I don't know who it belongs to because there's no one actively toasting it.
Oh. Ooh, thanks for all those subscriptions, guys.
Yeah, huge thank you to everyone that has subbed. It does help out massively.
We'll find out who that iHub belongs to. In the meantime, here is the create or join mailing list, TIS News, just like that. hit join, and you will get an introductory email that tells you that you are subscribed. And then every day you will get a newspaper, basically.
Oh, Devious, thank you very much for gifting 5 subs, and congratulations to all those that won one of those 5 subs.
Some Devious, thank you. That's awesome. Very generous of you for other people to do that for other people. Appreciate it. We appreciate it. They appreciate it. All right, so that's how you get into the news. I'll write instructions here too.
So I'm currently now streaming the iHub, the unknown iHub, fleets. Yeah, the fleets are actually now appearing on this iHub. I'm unsure if it was them that anchored it, but it was sat here for a significant amount of time with no defense.
There's definitely a lot of Pappy arriving here. Infrastructure hub, like, is that lumpy? No. All right, Nick Bison tells us that an anchored iHub belongs to no one until it is toasted.
Yeah, but the interesting thing is most groups will anchor it under the protection of a fleet. This one has just kind of appeared. There was when I saw it on the overview, I was like, "Oh, I'll walk to that one. There's going to be a fleet there." There was no one. It was literally on its own.
Well, there's definitely a fleet protecting it now, it looks like, and several more coming in.
It could be that Pappy anchored it, and because the iHub needs an ownership for it, they need to figure out who wants to take control of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, Pappy is a mega coalition, so it has multiple coalitions in it. It's harder to coordinate than it would be a single coalition like the Imperium, which has, I believe, like 5 or 6 alliances in it. Yep, looks like Test are the toasters on this, so they'll claim this unit, this hub.
Yeah. So test lines are, like Matt also said, they want this, they want it to be theirs, and no one else's.
Thanks, Wombat, for battle report. I think it was Variata that. Oh, there's a hype train. Whatever. I think that's.
Yeah, there was a hype train for all the subs. So thank you very much,
Okay.
guys. We got 12 subs in that hype train. So thank you very much to those that subscribed, as well as to Devious for those gifted subs.
Let's hit these buttons. I think Ariata had mentioned a very good point that the iHub, if it had traveled all the way up to 35 days, would give the Imperium the option to put down a Sino jammer, and that would be bad news for the Happy forces that have Titans that are still stuck in here to the tune of maybe 100 of them or more. So strategically, this would have been a pretty big victory, and this makes more sense when you consider that there was a lot of encouragement to show up on the Imperium side today. We're watching test Entosis, this iHub. They'll be the new owners of the iHub in this system until it is either destroyed or ticks up to 35 days, at which time I believe they will want to put down a Sino jammer. If they successfully make it to 35 days without interruption, without this thing being destroyed, they'll be able to put down a Sino jammer, and at that point, they'll have better control over the system when they try to take on the Keepstar that is in system. However, the Imperium already have many Titans inside this system parked inside that Keepstar. Yeah, Wombat says that Matani was in M2 TAC. Asher was as well, but he's the commander, so that's normal. That is not unexpected. I think they're a big draw. I think their followers like to see them in the same fights. And it's a good way of rallying troops, is to get your leaders to lead from the front. Yes, I believe this was an important fight. Thanks again to Sully for doing most of the coverage. I got called away. Yeah, Nick Bison, who says, for the sake of argument, if the iHub lives 35 days, about 2 or 3 days prior to that, goons will most likely evac their heavy assets out of the system. And I believe you can always jump out of a jammed system because it's jamming the sinusoidal beacon or the field generator, and those are meant to signal jumps in, not out.
Correct, yes. There's no limit on exiting a system. It is literally just entering.
Screaming makes a very good point that Pappy, if they are the owners of a Sino jammer, will have to cycle it down to allow themselves to jump in. And that window of opportunity is open for everyone, not just Pappy.
Yeah, that's something we saw very well used during the first M2 fight. Pappy was able to dictate when the Saigon Jammer actually did get turned on, and that really did create a large issue for the Imperium.
He set the tempo for reinforcements, basically. But it does lead to interesting situations if both sides are losing soldiers, we'll say, losing pilots. Do you let more in for your side and their side, or do you just keep everything out? There's a lot of factors to which of those you decide to do. And these days, if you cycle down a jammer, it's a 5-minute process or 5-minute window, basically. It used to be 30 minutes, if you can imagine that.
Yeah. The main reason I think Pepe definitely wanted this iHub is not so much to allow them to sign the jam itself, even though that will be useful for the Keepstar fight. They do still have a lot of Imperium to deal with on this Keepstar, but more it prevents the Imperium from being able to jam it. We did see for the second M2 fight, Imperium did anchor all three Sinojammer structures. So the Pappy forces could not jam the fight, even though they owned the iHub. But quite literally, this is more preventive than offensive at this moment. Pappy will obviously want to attack and destroy this Keepstar, and doing it under a Sinojammer does make a huge amount of sense for the Imperial for the Pappy pilots. They have successfully killed multiple Keepstars. Just recently, the One Tac S. So it has been a hard fought battle for today for this Keepstar for this iHub. That's for sure. Let's see if we can get a final battle report loaded up.
Yeah, I think Wombat put one in. That I'll get that to you inside of this chat. I think it's final, but I don't know.
Yeah, I've just posted up the one I've got running as well. In total, there has been just over 4,000 pilots.
Look at all those Entosis beams on it. Incredible redundancy. It only takes one, but you want to have more than one in case one goes out. Wormius says Pappy excels at defeating undefended structures.
Unfortunately, it's I think the M2 battle was both glorious but also quite costly for both sides. But not only in the physical EV assets, just the pilots themselves. Like it caused even myself just streaming whilst being in the fight. It ruined my sleep schedule for a solid week.
Jeez.
It was 14 hours of fighting. So I think they kind of don't want to cause that again just so soon, as well as obviously they want to do as much damage for as minimal loss.
Yeah, I think one of the things, a lot of people talk about morale, like, oh, you break morale and nobody shows up on the other side. That's how you win these wars and blah, 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 blah. And that is a contributing factor. It's not the only factor. There are material reasons that fleets diminish in size. There are FC reasons when an FC decides to quit. There are a lot of reasons that your opponent actually collapses. But one of those is fatigue. And that's a big contributor that not a lot of people outside the game think about. But a lot of what you see in rhythm and cadence of these fights is fatigue control.
Yeah, it was a glorious fight, and I thoroughly enjoyed being in my avatar, as well as streaming it for you guys, so you could see what I would see, the timers I had to deal with and things like that, and obviously the big 1.5 million damage button. But it really it really does take an impact, because I know for a fact that there was not many fleets the next day, just because of the pure fatigue of most of the pilots. People were saying, "Oh, is there going to be a rapid breakout attempt?" But no, because by the time the pilots woke up, there was already too much of the formidable defense up.
All right, there's a great big thanks to Omeka Gold, known to all of us as a CSM representative and really an advanced player in EVE Online. Took some time off for university. Has since actually started playing a little bit of Dual Universe, if I'm not mistaken, but also keeps his eye on EVE Online. Thanks very much for the sub.
I can confirm he does play Dual Universe. I was chatting with someone in the game, someone I have not met outside the game, who said, "Oh, do you know Mecha Gold? I heard he plays Eve."
So he's making a name for himself over there too.
I just wanted to quickly say as well, if you do enjoy
thank you,
some other
Hamder.
games outside of Eve, feel free to give TIS with Matt, who is currently streaming Death Stranding.
Oh,
It
yes.
is a game that I am really looking forward to playing. I'm picking up in a couple of days, and then I'm going to catch up on all the streams.
Yes, don't watch the streams before you play it on your own. Highly recommended Death Stranding. I am streaming it, so if you want to hang out with me while I play it, you're welcome to. And it's just casual as I go through it. But don't watch it if you're going to play it or you want to play it or you have any interest. Don't spoil it. Don't read anything about it. Go in as a blank slate and play through Death Stranding. It's a good 40 to 100 hours, depending on how you want to play it. But it is well worth it. If you like science fiction, if you're a fan of EVE Online, I highly recommend it. For me, it's a game of the year, easily. Game of the last 2 or 3 years, easily.
But we're seeing now we're in the last 20 seconds of the iHub. And in fact, it has even been overtaken as I was watching the stream camera. So Test Alliance now have their iHub in M2 tag. So it's beginning to return to the status quo of what it was before the Keepstar fight. This iHub now, obviously, I fully expect the Imperium to mount an assault at this at some point, try and reinforce it. They have done over all previous ones. But I do believe there won't be much more fighting going on today. As we zoom out, we can just see 4 fleets here defending this iHub, ensuring that nothing is getting on to prevent them. Overall, just looking at the quick battle reports, over 4,000 pilots taking part in just this one battle, spread over 6 different systems, with a total of around 270 billion destroyed.
Wow, look at those pilots going back home. Job done. For Pappy this time around. The Imperium lost a good opportunity here, but they are in the driver's seat for this system. So they will definitely be seen in these parts. Now you see it looks like a tackler arriving here for the people who are going to get out late. Maybe there's a snack for him. That's an Ares.
Yeah. The stragglers at the end always like to get their get one quick pilot, and it's like, oh look, we caught him, and then we're able to do some more damage.
He's got a choice of 4 there. And Tosis ships, maybe they're expendable. Then again, he's outnumbered. We'll see. Yeah, took off. One of the reasons that nullsec is a little bit on the difficult side is you cannot afford to be left behind. I don't think that is appreciated. If you're going to pilot in nullsec, you're part of a herd. And if you're an outlier, if you're left behind, if you're one jump behind or you took the wrong gate, you're very vulnerable by yourself. And it's up to the FC to save you or not if you get caught.
Typically, as fleets travel, the FC will give a few destinations, say free burn to this destination or hold on gate. and it just literally catches stragglers up. Um, I myself has been at the head of the fleet and 2 or 3 jumps behind, especially in Delve. The Imperium are very good at their pop up camps, and you could be 3 jumps behind your fleet. 200 people have just gone through the gate. When you warp to go to the gate, there's a bubble on you. And you are just so far away that there's no help for you, and you just end up getting destroyed and sent back to the staging. Imperium have been very good at that.
I don't have bubbles up so that we could see some of the stuff, but Sully is kind of our war reporter. He does a lot of streaming for us, and he's a great big part of TIS these days. He brings you all this great coverage, really, and he's incredibly knowledgeable about the material. I'm just a personality. I'm the one that talks about blue Jesus on the wall. It turns out to be Tupac. If you guys didn't see today's show, I suggest you watch it. That's funny. Sully, is CJ your like alt and you just got me to talk about you? Because that would be very meta.
That would be very, very meta, but no, it's not.
Okay.
There you go, CJ. There's my character.
Blue Jesus never dies. You know, I love that. Blue Jesus, right? Jesus is blue with you. It's like he's your friend. He's on your side. That is very, very funny. Yeah, I think you're right. I think we totally need a Blue Jesus emote. Oh, that's hilarious. I'm working on that tonight. There will be Blue Jesus.
Ooh, so
I hope I'm
that's
not
an
offending
interesting.
people.
That's someone said. IRC has taken space in Delve.
IRC?
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't know if that's got really any major traction. They don't look to have claimed any iHubs from what I can see. Only TCUs, and unfortunately, in Aegis of, the TCUs aren't really the be all and end all. They're just kind of the name on the system now. So I think they're just kind of poking and prodding, just kind of see where things are weak. But I say they do not have any TCU ownership, but any iHub ownership, only 3 TCUs. But that is interesting. It means they are still out here and poking around. But I
You're
don't
talking
think
about
they're aligned.
Intrepid Crossing?
Yeah.
See, did they reconstitute or not? They're kind of an older alliance, but I hadn't seen much of them until recently. But I only saw like 3 or 4 people like active per month, and now they look really big again. Am I mistaken then?
Yeah, they look to have about 80 active characters. Looks like they may have had a resurgence.
Well, I mean, their numbers here are 1,500 pilots, so they're definitely back. That's not a fluke there. But I don't know when they reconstituted. They used to be in the north back about 8-9 years ago. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like, wow, yeah, they did this recently. No, let's see. Basically in December, so they were starting to build up.
So a question asked by, unfortunately, Genesis. That was it. I was trying to pronounce your name. I was like, just getting confused. Pappy so according to the battle report, Pappy fielded 2,400 pilots, with the Imperium fielding 1,600. In terms of just raw ship losses, Pappy suffered 472 ship losses, whilst the Imperium was over double at 1,017.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelvin. I was noticing that too, kind of summer. And I think I noticed them in Delve right around the end of summer. I thought that's an interesting marker, IRC. Been around since 2006. And but there wasn't that many of them that were actually active. Now there seem to be a lot more. And if they're taking up space in legacy area, I wonder if they're now possibly paid by the Imperium. Like that would be a smart move, wouldn't it, to hire people to help out? I was joking today, not such a bad joke actually, for anybody who's independent, that if you're going to take space anyway, you might as well say, hey, I'm taking space in legacy, but I would like some additional incentives, Imperium. So we know you have a lot of money. Why don't you give us some of that money? Otherwise, maybe we won't take space in legacy areas. I think that's the reverse of racketeering, isn't it?
So I'd just like to give a quick shout out to Mazorian or CCP Aperture. He was in system earlier, so I expect he was able to get a couple of good snaps. But I'll throw his flicker in chat as well. He's been around a lot of these fights and get some beautifully stunning pictures of these battles. Even at 1 or 2 FPS, he's still able to pull out some amazing shots.
Probably better for him. Line
So
up the
if
camera
you're
just right.
ever looking for a lovely Eve back or anything like that, go and check his Flickr out. I have 2 of my monitors from pictures that he's taken of my in fact Titans as well. So feel free to go and check him out as well.
CCP Aperture is better known to players as Razorian. He got hired by CCP, great hire, and he's taking pictures of events, large and small.
But I believe that has pretty much wrapped up the fighting now. Most of the fleets have left M2. The iHub is now anchored and online for test lines, and we still see here the Imperium blockade on these trapped Titans and Supers and other capitals are still ongoing. So we'll have to see. Hopefully, this will change over in the next few weeks. We may end up seeing more Pappy breakout attempts. Who knows?
Quick correction, just to be clear, when I was looking at IRC, they were active in Delve. They were shooting at Goon Swarm, so I think they are a part of Pappy. They're not colonizing legacy space. They may actually be there taking it as part of some arrangement or something, or even defending the space. But they're not there in a hostile manner. That's the point brought up by Peaky.
Yeah, it looks like the TCUs they claimed were just on unclaimed systems. iHub ownership, for example, one of the systems was lost on the 5th, and then IRC picked up on the 30th. So I think they are just capitalizing on unclaimed solve. I believe that we've met up to a nice upper point as local in M2 is now dropping down to the 1,000 mark. So over recap for everyone that's not been here for the entire fight, we saw the iHub come out of its reinforce with node spawn, large number of Imperium force auxiliaries were intoasting on nodes. We even saw in 5C, one of the M2 nodes had 10 faxes on it. So with that, we then saw dreadnoughts get summoned in. NC Dot brought in a couple dozen dreadnoughts in various places, as well as a large carrier fleet from Panoramic Horde to deal with the M2 node. And in M2 itself, we just saw roaming fleets going around trying to pick off and prevent the Pappy forces from interesting their hubs. But overall, 270 billion destroyed in the entire fighting over these 6 systems, and with Pappy winning the objective and taking over the iHub ownership. After it was destroyed by the Imperium, they then successfully anchored their own.
Thank you, Sully, and thank you guys for watching Talking in Stations today. We're here every weekday for Newsday shows. We bring you EVE Online news every day. Make sure you sign up for our newsletter inside of the game. One more time, I'll give you information on how to do that. Next, we'll raid our friend Ron, who is also streaming this, and he will probably continue later on. But I want to say thanks again, Sully. Great job. Thank all you guys that helped out and gave us coordinates on where the fights were. These are incredibly hard fights to get covered because they're all over the place, and all our camera ships are open to be destroyed by either side, so we don't have any advantage of being neutral. We're actually at twice the risk. So thanks, Sully, for doing a lot of the hard work. And everybody that helped him, much appreciated. We will see you guys later. And if you want to watch, hang out with me while I play Death Stranding, I'll be back up in a couple hours. Thanks.